2255 The Second Trial.
You want me to forge you a new vessel?
Yuan stared at Kula's soul with wide eyes.
What? Don't tell me you're going to refuse and force me to reincarnate.
Kulis remarked with a somewhat worried voice. Yuan shook his head with a smile and said,
Why would I do that? If you don't want to reincarnate, then so be it. However, if you want me to craft you a vessel that'll fit your taste, it might be a little difficult. Ha ha ha.
Kulis suddenly burst out laughing.
Did you think I was asking you to forge me a giant's body? I couldn't care less about the size. You can forge me an ordinary body if you want. In that case, it's doable. However, you'll still have to wait until I finish with the trial since I don't have any ingredients on me at this moment. Fine, but don't make me wait too long, or I might accidentally reincarnate from boredom,
said Kulis.
Seeing how you can already make such jokes despite everything that has happened, I think you'll be fine.
Yuan remarked with a smile. Kulis fell silent for a moment before speaking again.
Although I had my ups and downs in life, it's nothing compared to what you have experienced. I'm merely inspired and following what you're doing.
Is that so?
Anyway, go ahead and continue what you were doing. I may sound fine, but I am actually exhausted, so I'll take a quick nap. Wake me up when my new vessel is ready.
Kulis said.
We can continue this conversation at that time. All right, sleep well.
Kula's soul disappeared into the void shortly after, but he didn't vanish. Instead, Tianer had taken his soul and placed him somewhere safe. Ever since Tian Chiyuan crafted the stairway to heaven, Kula's soul had resided within the treasure, arguably the safest in the 9 heavens. After all, the stairway to heaven was used to traverse the 9 heavens by its residents. It was a treasure that even the Celestial Emperor considered extremely valuable, so nobody has tried to covet or damage it. Moreover, the stairway to heaven was one of Tian Chiyuan's masterpieces, rivaling number 1 under heaven. After Kulis left, Yuan focused solely on recovering his energy. Meanwhile, Feng Yuxiang and the others chatted about the situation.
I can't believe that such an ancient figure is still alive.
Feng Yuxiang remarked.
Giant Emperor Kulis was one of the most powerful figures of the primordial era, predating even the Azura clan.
Xiao Hua said.
It's no exaggeration to say he was one of the key reasons the Celestial Emperor was able to rise into existence. Huh? What do you mean?
Feng Yuxiang looked at her with a puzzled face.
The Celestial Emperor wasn't even a concept during his time.
She explained.
Back then, the 9 heavens, known as divine heavens, were controlled by the immortal clans. One day, Giant Emperor Kulis waged war against the human race. He and the giant race, which was under his command, wreaked havoc across the divine heavens and killed countless people. The war forced the immortal clans and many other powerful families to come together for the first time. However, Giant Emperor Kulis suddenly vanished into thin air one day. Without their leader, the giant race quickly crumbled, and the war ended shortly after. To this day, nobody knows what happened to Giant Emperor Kulis, well, except us. Anyway,
Xiao Hua continued.
After the war, the immortal clans and the other families went their separate ways. But those families, having once tasted what it felt like to command the entire world, couldn't let go of that power and began seeking ways to rule the world once more. The immortal clans and many other powerful families began fighting among themselves, each seeking to rule the divine heavens. Although the immortal clans had once been the strongest, their influence had been greatly weakened by a madman who targeted them specifically, ultimately causing them to lose the war. Of course, the immortal clans weren't the only powerful families. Many hidden families stepped out from the shadows to join the war as well. After many years of conflict, one family emerged victorious and became the first celestial family in history. Unfortunately, that family abused their newfound power to hell and back, and, well, you already know what happened after that, so I'll spare you the details.
Feng Yuxiang listened to Xiao Hua's history lesson with a loosened jaw.
I've never heard anything about a war between the giant race and humans, and I've read countless ancient scrolls.
She remarked.
Well, it was ages ago, back when this world had only just come into existence. In those days, a few thousand years felt unimaginably long, unlike now, where cultivators can survive for tens of thousands of years with ease. I only know of this history because the Azura clan once served the first celestial family. Because of that, we had access to records hidden from the rest of the world.
Xiao Hua said with a light shrug. Lan Yingying looked at Xiao Hua and remarked with a smile.
To me, you're just as ancient as the giant emperor.
Xiao Hua shook her head.
Although we both existed within the same era, the primordial era, it doesn't feel like it. The world before the celestial family came into existence was vastly different.
Some time later, Yuan ended his cultivation and said,
I'm ready to begin the next trial.
At his words, the void stirred once more. When the shifting finally settled, Yuan found himself standing above the clouds, surrounded by an endless expanse of blue sky. You have started your second trial in the stairway to heaven. A majestic palace stands before your presence. A colossal palace emerged on the horizon, suspended atop a platform of clouds. It exuded a boundless, divine aura, as though it were the dwelling place of a god. When Yuan saw the familiar-looking palace before him, he sighed. Unlike the first trial, he immediately knew what he had to do in this trial.
That's the Celestial Palace.
Xiaohua exclaimed, her eyes widening at the sight. 2256 Storming the Celestial Palace.
The Celestial Palace, as in the Celestial Emperor's place?
Lan Yingying asked. Xiaohua nodded. There was no mistaking it, as she'd visited that place countless times in the past. Shortly after the Celestial Palace appeared, Yuan began making his way toward it. But barely half a minute later, he noticed several tiny black dots emerging from the palace. As they drew closer, the dots expanded into the shapes of human silhouettes, and their powerful aura became clearer. In the blink of an eye, 10 fifth-level God Ascension cultivators surrounded him, their aura surging with celestial chi and killing intent.
Evil God, how bold of you to come here, by yourself. You must have finally gotten tired of living.
One of the cultivators shouted.
Don't worry, we'll kill you soon. However, if you're hoping it'd be a painless death, we'll have to disappoint you. You will pay for all of the atrocities you committed. Not only have you taken countless lives, but you also have no boundaries, killing children and the innocent without batting an eye. We'll definitely avenge our fallen comrades today.
Hearing such words made Yuan recall his final moments as Tianxian, when he raided the Celestial Palace alone.
Are you done barking? If so, come at me.
Yuan beckoned them with a nonchalant expression on his face.
Tianxian.
The 10 cultivators rushed at Yuan. Yuan didn't utter a single word as he used void manipulation to not only dodge their attacks but also counterattack. With a single swing of his sword, Supreme Sword Aura, enhanced with eternal essence, erupted across the battlefield, instantly cutting down all 10 of the cultivators. The Supreme Sword Aura didn't merely kill them, it butchered them. In the blink of an eye, their bodies were sliced thousands of times, flesh and bone shredded away until nothing remained but blood. It was as if the cultivators had exploded into a scarlet mist. After killing the cultivators, Yuan subconsciously lifted his arm to inspect it. At that moment, he realized the trial had done more than change the scenery, it had altered his appearance to that of Tianxian as well.
That appearance.
Xiaohua swallowed nervously after seeing Tianxian's appearance, her eyes flickering with deep admiration and reverence. Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying couldn't help but make strange faces when they saw Xiaohua's expression. It was one they had never seen on her before, and it was full of obsession. Shortly after, more cultivators emerged from the Celestial Palace to stop Yuan. 10, 20, 50. In the blink of an eye, the number of cultivators appearing to stop Yuan with each wave had grown into the hundreds.
Ha ha!
Yuan laughed madly as he danced in and out of existence with void manipulation. Each time he reappeared, dozens of cultivators exploded into bloody mist, staining the sky crimson. Thud. Xiaohua, watching from the spectators' room, suddenly fell to her knees as tears streamed down her face. Yet despite her trembling shoulders, a satisfied smile bloomed on her lips.
I have always regretted not being able to witness this moment.
Xiaohua spoke in a low voice.
If he hadn't secretly stormed the Celestial Palace alone, my family would have surely fought alongside him. But alas, by the time we realized, everything was already over.
In the past, Tianxian had secretly gone to confront the Celestial Emperor alone. Although he succeeded in defeating him, it came at the cost of his own life. Meanwhile, Yuan continued carving his way forward, inching closer to the Celestial Palace. Those who blocked his path ranged from armored soldiers to ordinary-looking cultivators in simple robes. Unlike the present era, where the Celestial Emperor's fighters are almost exclusively Heaven's mandate, the first Celestial Emperor commanded people from all manner of backgrounds. Eventually, after slaughtering tens of thousands of enemies, Yuan reached the Celestial Palace's very doorstep. Without a word, Yuan lifted his leg high and delivered a ruthless kick to the majestic doors, shattering them instantly.
I'm here to take your life for a second time, Celestial Emperor.
Yuan laughed out loud as he strolled inside the Celestial Palace, where even more enemies awaited him.
Evil God, you won't get to meet the Celestial Emperor, as you will be dying where you stand.
They immediately bombarded Yuan with powerful martial techniques that shook the entire palace. Yuan responded to their aggression with his own, and within moments, the entire place was submerged in supreme sword aura and eternal essence. Minutes later, Yuan walked down the blood-soaked hallway until he reached the next area, where, once again, many people stood blocking his path.
Stop him. We mustn't let him reach the Celestial Emperor at all costs.
Yuan didn't even bat an eye as he moved forward, slaughtering everyone in the area without leaving a single soul alive. Some time later, Yuan arrived before another majestic door. However, this one was different from the others. It was much more lavish and detailed. As Yuan raised his leg and prepared to kick it down like he did with the others, the doors suddenly flung open by themselves.
Come in.
A calm voice echoed, beckoning Yuan. Without hesitation, Yuan stepped through the doors and entered what appeared to be an indoor garden. His eyes narrowed at the tall figure standing among crystal flowers, back turned to him, a posture that made the figure seem unexpectedly vulnerable.
Just like back then, you're tending your flowers while your subordinates are being slaughtered by me,
Yuan said. The Celestial Emperor replied.
Unlike that useless bunch who can't even stop a single intruder, these celestial dahlias are pleasing to the eye. Moreover, even a single petal from them can turn trash into treasure.
He then turned to face Yuan, his eyes calm yet carrying a faint glimmer of madness beneath the surface.
Tell me, Tian Xian, why reject my invitation? Had you accepted my offer, the war would have been over ages ago, and you could have enjoyed a peaceful, fulfilling life with your family until the end of time.
2257 Fighting the First Celestial Emperor. When Yuan heard the Celestial Emperor's words, he fell silent for a moment before responding in a cold voice.
I would have lived a fulfilling life with Xiao Mei if you didn't assassinate them. I did not assassinate your family. It was General Mo who stained his hands with their blood.
The Celestial Emperor said in a calm, steady voice, one that carried the tone of someone who truly believed his own words.
Are you saying that General Mo assassinated my family on his own accord? That you didn't give him the command?
Yuan narrowed his eyes at him.
Does it really matter?
The Celestial Emperor said with a slight shrug.
It doesn't change the fact that General Mo was the one who carried out the deed. Ha!
Yuan suddenly tilted his head and burst out laughing.
You want to know why I refuse to join you? All right, I'll tell you.
He stared at the Celestial Emperor in the eyes and continued in a serious voice.
It's because you're a coward. What did you just say?
The Celestial Emperor frowned.
You're a pathetic coward who hides behind others.
Yuan spat with disdain.
What did you do during the heavenly war of immortals and gods besides cower in this palace like a rat? From the beginning to the very end, you never showed yourself. You never made a difference. How dare you?
The Celestial Emperor trembled in anger.
However, I don't blame you.
Yuan continued with a cold smile.
After all, you were pathetically weak, far weaker than the people you sent to die for you. Even with limitless resources and countless techniques at your fingertips, you couldn't break through to the God Ascension realm and remain bottlenecked at true immortal. What?
Xiao Hua's eyes widened with shock at Yuan's remarks, looking completely baffled by the revelation.
No way was the first Celestial Emperor really that weak? Or is the young master simply taunting him?
Feng Yuxiang questioned out loud. Xiao Hua spoke in a dazed voice.
Now that I think about it, we never actually witnessed the Celestial Emperor's prowess in all the years we served him. His cultivation was always concealed, and everything we heard about his strength came from rumors or from his own people.
No one had ever been bold enough to challenge the Celestial Emperor, so no one truly knew his real strength, no one except Tian Xian, who stormed the Celestial Palace after slaughtering everyone who could have protected him.
If the Celestial Emperor was truly that weak, then how did the young master die?
Feng Yuxiang mumbled.
Shut up.
The Celestial Emperor roared after hearing Yuan's remarks.
So what if my cultivation is a little slow? I am still the Celestial Emperor. I stand above every being under heaven. My status and influence are the strongest. Who are you trying to convince? Me? Or you?
Yuan spoke with a mocking smile.
Courting death.
Without warning, an explosive aura erupted from the Celestial Emperor before he lunged at Yuan, his gaze burning with killing intent. Unlike the real one, this Celestial Emperor had the cultivation of 7th-level God Ascension.
Oomph.
Yuan let out a dismissive sneer before clashing with him. With every exchange, their energies blasted out in all directions, destroying everything in sight and tearing through the Celestial Palace, reducing it to ruins within minutes.
You're lasting much longer than before, but still, you're far from being able to defeat me,
said Yuan.
Shut up. You're just an orphan raised by bandits. You act high and mighty, but you're no different than a dog who only knows how to bark. I'm really curious how you even managed to become the Celestial Emperor. You don't deserve to know anything.
The Celestial Emperor exclaimed.
And you think you deserve the position of Celestial Emperor?
Their battle raged on for several hours, and throughout the entire clash, the two hurled mockery and insults at each other without pause. Although the two appeared evenly matched, the truth was that Yuan hadn't been fighting seriously at all.
I'm sick of seeing your face, so I'll end it here.
Yuan suddenly said.
What?
The Celestial Emperor frowned. Then, without warning, Yuan's aura skyrocketed as he increased the intensity of his eternal essence.
Let's end this like before, shall we?
Yuan suddenly began pummeling the Celestial Emperor with nothing but his fists. The Celestial Emperor tried desperately to retaliate, but he was utterly powerless before Yuan's overwhelming might. After beating the Celestial Emperor until his face was unrecognizable, swollen like a crushed blueberry, Yuan shattered his dantian and tore his arms from his body with brutal force. The Celestial Emperor collapsed to his knees, staring up at Yuan through the narrow slits of his swollen eyes. If you think that you've won by killing me. Yuan didn't even let the Celestial Emperor finish his sentence. He seized him by the jaw, gripped his head, and tore it from his shoulders with a violent yank.
A puppet shouldn't talk,
he mumbled. Although Yuan had defeated the Celestial Emperor, the notification confirming he had cleared the trial still didn't appear, even after several moments had passed. Suddenly, an unfathomable presence descended, engulfing the entire area in a suffocating pressure. Yuan calmly turned around and lifted his head, gazing up at the sky, where a massive red eye stared down at him like a god.
I remember now.
He spoke with a slight smile on his face.
After I stormed the Celestial Palace, and dealt with the Celestial Emperor with ease, the true ruler of the divine heavens revealed itself to me. Let's see, what was your name again? Arak, or some dumbass name like that.
Yuan said as he glared fearlessly up at the eye in the sky.
How dare mere Ant mock a god, much less destroy my property?
A soul-rending voice exploded within Yuan's mind.
Upset that I killed your little puppet.
Yuan raised his arm and extended his middle finger toward the eye.
Why don't you do something about it?
2258 Evil God's True Ending. Seeing Yuan giving it the middle finger, the eye in the sky narrowed with contempt, but there was also a hint of intrigue hidden deep within. After all, this was the first time a human had ever mocked it so openly.
Although you're a disrespectful little ant, I will give your boldness some credit.
Arak spoke a moment later.
I'll give you an opportunity, the opportunity of many lifetimes. Since you killed the Celestial Emperor, I'll give his position to you.
Yuan burst out laughing.
You want me to take that bastard's place? What's the catch?
He didn't immediately refuse, hoping to continue the conversation and recover more memories.
You will wield authority over the entire world, and you will gain power beyond imagination, the power of a true god. All I require of you is to find something.
Arak said. Yuan narrowed his eyes and spoke.
This something, is it the absolute power?
Arak's eyes widened slightly, clearly surprised that a human was aware of its existence.
I won't ask how you came to acquire such information, but yes, as long as you find it and offer it to me, I will make you the most powerful being in the world, even surpassing some gods. I see.
Yuan mumbled as he closed his eyes. He just recalled all of Tian Xian's memories from the beginning to the very end, as well as the reason the Celestial Emperor served the Eternals. To obtain power that transcended human limits, the first Celestial Emperor offered everything he had to the Eternals. For someone like him, the promise of unfathomable strength was simply impossible to resist. In fact, it was likely that the Eternals had played a role in the Celestial Emperor obtaining his position in the first place. After all, it was hard to believe that someone so lacking in talent could rise to such power on his own. As for the Eternals, since they cannot enter the nine heavens with their true bodies or use their powers, they are forced to rely on humans to carry out their deeds.
What is your answer? My patience is limited.
Arak spoke again, sounding a bit irritated. Yuan opened his eyes to look at Arak.
What if I refuse? Then I will obliterate your soul, ensuring you will be erased from existence for eternity.
After taking a deep breath, Yuan spoke.
In that case, I have made up my mind. My answer is, go fuck yourself.
At the end of his sentence, Yuan quickly swung his arm toward the sky, releasing an arc of eternal essence that shot straight at the eye. The eternal essence scattered the moment it touched Arak's eye, almost like throwing glass at a rock.
The audacity!
Arak angrily roared.
Since you do not wish to live, I shall obliterate your soul.
Arak's eye suddenly started glowing intensely, clearly preparing for an attack. Yuan could tell from the sheer amount of eternal essence gathering that the attack would rival about 3% of Sarek's prowess. Since he'd already survived Sarek using 10% prowess, he wasn't worried about it in the slightest and immediately prepared to confront it.
Perish, you insolent bug!
In the next moment, Arak unleashed a massive crimson beam of condensed eternal essence from its eye, shining down on Yuan like divine judgment. Yuan made no attempt to dodge or block it. Instead, he coated his entire body in eternal essence, forming a sword-shaped aura that resembled the tip of a blade. When the crimson beam crashed down on him, it was split apart instantly, its power scattering outward and obliterating everything around him.
Is that all?
Yuan asked afterward with an unfazed look on his face.
You talk big, but you're hardly any stronger than the Celestial Emperor.
Enraged by his remarks, bloody veins began appearing in Arak's eye as he prepared to launch another attack. This time, he unleashed a beam that was about 6% of Sarek's prowess. Naturally, Yuan blocked the attack without any difficulty, and he continued to mock the entity.
No wonder the Celestial Emperor stayed weak despite your promises of unfathomable power. Did you even give him anything? I'm sure he already received your help. But given how pathetically weak you are, he was only able to reach true immortal. How dare an ant like you mock me? D.
Suddenly, blood welled at the corner of Arak's eye. A moment later, a single drop fell, but despite being only one drop, it was enormous, large enough to fill an entire lake as it plummeted toward Yuan. Yuan didn't dare to underestimate this drop of blood, as it contained enough eternal essence to rival Sarek at 10% of his prowess. Yuan unleashed as much eternal essence as he could muster before shooting it at the drop of blood in the sky. When the two forces collided, they hung motionless in the sky for a brief moment, then Yuan's eternal essence pierced through the blood drop, scattering it in all directions before shooting straight into Arak's eye. Arak screamed in pain, snapping its eye shut.
You will regret this. I swear I will rip your soul apart. Just you wait.
Arak shouted before disappearing from the sky. You have cleared the second trial. The notification finally appeared, signaling the end of the trial, and moments later, Yuan was returned to the platform within the stairway to heaven. Yuan released a deep sigh as he stared at the empty void. Although he had survived Arak's attack within the trial, Tianxian had not. In reality, Tianxian was ultimately killed by Arak, mainly because he had been unable to wield eternal essence at the time. Fortunately, his soul was not destroyed, allowing him to reincarnate.
To think that was how he died in the past.
Xiaohua muttered in a dazed voice after witnessing everything.
Just how much have the Eternals influenced our world? And for how long?
Feng Yuxiang wondered aloud. Shortly after clearing the second trial, Yuan noticed something materializing from the void, slowly drifting toward him. Seeing the item caused his eyebrows to rise in puzzlement. 2259 The third trial. As the palm-sized item reached him, Yuan caught it. It was a golden medallion, one side engraved with a dragon, the other bearing the word heaven.
This is...
Yuan's eyes widened with surprise when he realized what he was holding.
That's...
Xiaohua also expressed great shock after seeing the medallion.
What is that medallion?
Feng Yuxiang asked, her face full of curiosity.
The crest of heaven.
Xiaohua explained, revealing its significance.
It's proof of the Celestial Emperor's identity. If anyone not approved by the heavens so much as touches it, their soul will be obliterated. Basically, whoever possesses it is the Celestial Emperor.
Lan Yingying raised her eyebrows and remarked.
But Yuan is holding it just fine. Does that mean he's the Celestial Emperor now? No.
Xiaohua shook her head.
Yuan is probably fine because we're inside the stairway to heaven, where that very heaven cannot reach or influence. Things might be very different once we leave this place, though. If it only serves to identify the Celestial Emperor, isn't it basically a useless artifact?
Feng Yuxiang asked. Xiaohua's expression turned solemn as she responded.
It's more than just an identifier. The crest of heaven can be used to create heavenly laws, something only the Celestial Emperor is capable of. What?
Feng Yuxiang exclaimed in shock at her words.
Heavenly laws. Aren't those the rules every living being in the 9 heavens must obey? And anyone who defies them is punished by heavenly judgment, right?
Lan Yingying asked for clarification.
Yes, but not every heavenly law has the same function.
Xiaohua nodded.
Let's say the Celestial Emperor creates a heavenly law that prohibits everyone from eating meat. Anyone who defies this law will be punished accordingly. Then there are the ones that change nature itself, such as the one that made everyone in the lower heavens ignore the existence of players. Can the Celestial Emperor create heavenly laws without restriction?
Feng Yuxiang asked.
No, even the Celestial Emperor's authority has limits. If a heavenly law disrupts the world's balance too much or goes too far against the natural order, it will be rejected. For instance, a law that forbids cultivators from refining spiritual energy wouldn't be permitted. Another example would be a law that prohibits cultivators from killing one another.
Feng Yuxiang then inquired. Xiaohua shook her head.
The creation of heavenly laws can only be done at the heavenly jade tablet, which is located in the celestial palace. In the end, it's still a useless piece of junk.
Feng Yuxiang shrugged. Meanwhile, Yuan tried to recall when or how he had obtained the crest of heaven. Since he died shortly after defeating the first celestial emperor, he never had the chance to take it from the emperor's corpse.
It's no use. I can't remember.
He sighed in a defeated tone as he stowed the item away. It was likely obtained by one of his other reincarnations, but he had no way of knowing until he regained all of his memories. Afterward, Yuan rested for a bit to recover his soul strength before starting the next trial. You have started your third trial in the stairway to heaven. The scenery changed once again, but not by much, as he was transported to the starry sky. Survive. A single word appeared as a notification before Yuan. The next moment, Yuan sensed multiple powerful presences appearing out of thin air, surrounding him. Yuan calmly surveyed the figures surrounding him. 5 in total, each one a towering silhouette shrouded in a black veil. Their features were hidden, but Yuan didn't need to see their appearance to know exactly what he was facing.
So this is the insect who dared to defy us, huh? He's even more insignificant than I imagined.
One of them remarked with open disdain.
A mere mortal who has only recently learned to use eternal essence. Do you really think you have the power to defy us? How should we destroy him? It'd be too boring to kill him normally. Killing him would be far too lenient. We should make an example of him, for anyone who might dare defy us in the future. I agree. Let's cripple him and torture him until the end of time. That's a great idea. Are you bastards done yapping?
Yuan suddenly said aloud.
Don't be so quick to decide my fate.
The Eternals fell silent, as though in disbelief that such an audacious mortal could exist. After a brief moment of silence, the 5 Eternals erupted with eternal essence and launched their attacks at Yuan simultaneously. Yuan was taken aback for a split second, but the moment he sensed the strength of their eternal essence, he immediately counterattacked. Even with all 5 of them striking together, their combined might was only comparable to Sarek at 10% of his power, if not slightly higher.
Impossible. He actually blocked our attacks.
The Eternals expressed shock when Yuan's eternal essence perfectly cancelled out theirs.
If this is all you've got, then forget crippling me. I'll be the one crippling all of you.
Yuan shouted as he charged at the nearest Eternal. In response, the Eternal created a blade entirely of eternal essence before swinging it at Yuan. The blade, massive enough to cleave several planets with a single motion, descended upon Yuan, who immediately activated God of War's astral arts and created his own sword using eternal essence. When their weapons clashed, the space around the impact point shattered, revealing a deeper, darker void beneath, one that seemed to devour the surrounding space. However, the hole in the void quickly repaired itself. Meanwhile, their weapons strained against each other for a few seconds, until Yuan's strength overwhelmed it and the Eternal's blade shattered. Then, with another swift swing, Yuan cleaved the Eternal's silhouette cleanly in half. After the Eternal fell, its eternal essence was immediately absorbed by the remaining 4, causing their strength to surge. 2260 The Third Trial, 2. Upon absorbing the fallen Eternal's essence, the other 4's prowess strengthened drastically, even gaining slightly more than what they'd absorbed. Although the 4 of them together were slightly stronger than Sarek at 10% of his prowess, individually, they were still relatively weak.
To think a mere mortal would be able to defy us.
The remaining 4 Eternals were struck with unimaginable shock as they watched one of their own fall to Yuan. None of them had ever considered such a thing possible, so in their eyes, it was like watching a pig learning math.
1 down, for more to go.
Yuan laughed wildly as he immediately charged at their next Eternal.
You merely got lucky because he underestimated you. Don't think it will happen again.
The 4 Eternals fought in unison, each one covering the other's weaknesses as they pressed Yuan from all sides. Sure enough, facing all 4 Eternals at once proved difficult. Yuan wasn't being overwhelmed, nor was he struggling, but he also couldn't instantly kill them the way he had the first. As a result, the battle dragged on. Days turned into weeks, and after a full month of relentless clashes, Yuan finally found an opening. Upon defeating one of the Eternals, its eternal essence was immediately drawn toward the remaining 3. This time, however, Yuan didn't stand by and watch. Noticing that the absorption process was taking much longer than before, he seized the moment and absorbed a portion of the essence for himself.
How dare a mortal covet our power?
The remaining 3 Eternals erupted in fury as they watched Yuan absorb the eternal essence. To them, it was like witnessing a pig feast at a banquet reserved for gods.
You mad? Then do something about it.
Yuan laughed in their faces as he continued to absorb the eternal essence.
Kill him.
Without pausing their absorption, the Eternals attacked Yuan, desperate to disrupt him. However, just like them, Yuan was fully capable of fighting and refining at the same time.
How is it possible for a mortal to have such capabilities? He must have received help from another Eternal. That would explain everything. Who? Which bastard is backing you? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yuan calmly responded to their speculation.
Bullshit. There is definitely an Eternal, or two helping you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to use our powers. To think an Eternal would stoop as low as helping a human. Shame on them.
Yuan raised his eyebrows in a puzzled manner before speaking.
Aren't you lot also helping the Celestial Emperor? Ha ha ha. We're not helping him. We're using him. The Celestial Emperor is nothing more than a slave. Merely a tool for realizing our ambitions.
The Eternal declared.
Although the second Celestial Emperor is still lacking, he's much better than the first one. That ant was utterly useless. He tried to take advantage of the power we gave him to achieve his own ambitions, which led to his own death, even exposing our existence. Huh.
Yuan let out a mocking snort.
Power? What power? The reason he was still weak even after receiving your so-called power is because you barely have any to give.
Suddenly, the void shuddered violently as the Eternals completed their absorption, their auras erupting upward like a storm unleashed. Although Yuan had taken a portion of the eternal essence, the remaining Eternals grew even stronger than before. It was as if absorbing one of their own didn't simply transfer power, but magnified it beyond its original limit. Now, the three Eternals possessed a combined strength that surpassed Sarek at 10% of his power, reaching roughly 15%, only 5% short of the point where Yuan had once been completely powerless. However, Yuan's own strength had also risen sharply after absorbing the eternal essence. He would likely still lose to Sarek at 20% of his true power, but he would no longer be as utterly helpless as before.
You will die now.
The remaining three Eternals made their arrogant declaration as they bombarded Yuan with overwhelming eternal essence. At this point, Yuan could still match their combined might, but only barely. Because of the Eternals' massive size, it looked as though they were clashing at close range, but in reality, they were tens of thousands of miles apart. Their attacks were fairly simple as well. They either condensed eternal essence into weapons and struck with those, or they directly fired their eternal essence like a cultivator attacking with spiritual energy. Their strength was so absolute that the Eternals had no need for things like martial techniques. Such methods existed only for mortals, who relied on them to overcome their own shortcomings. Of course, some Eternals specialized in certain elements, such as Shiva. However, in truth, any Eternal could do the same if they were willing to invest the time and effort. Yet most of them consider such things pointless, mere showmanship, and instead devote themselves to strengthening their raw power. After all, every element or power in the universe was, at its core, eternal essence. Fire, water, lightning, poison, even basic chi, immortal chi, and celestial chi, all of them, when broken down to their purest form, were simply essence. Time flowed on as Yuan clashed with the Eternals, and in the blink of an eye, 3 more months passed. While the Eternal's strength remained unchanged, Yuan's own prowess continued to rise steadily as he familiarized himself with eternal essence. After all, the Eternals he was fighting were, in the end, nothing more than creations of the stairway to heaven. After another 2 months, Yuan finally managed to defeat another Eternal. Now, there were just 2 remaining, and they wasted no time absorbing what the previous Eternal left behind.
What's wrong? Now that there are only 2 of you left, you've become awfully quiet.
Yuan suddenly remarked. The Eternals did not respond, but their auras continued to swell. By the time they finished absorbing the essence, each one possessed nearly 10% of Sarek's prowess. Congratulations, you have finished listening to the current content.